All right, the last one I've got for you. I didn't know if I was going to ask you about it, but you mentioned it earlier.
Oh, yeah. Which one? Penis McNab?
Penis McNab.
Oh, my God.
Oh, welcome back. Welcome back. What are we on now? Episode 8? 7? Episode 7, I think. We missed last week. Look, this is I was just texting Romy Bean, who I had on episode 2. Her and I've been supposed to like just meet to catch up and hey, what's been going on and things like that. Great friend of mine, Romy. And I made the joke to her yesterday. I was like, why did we try to plan to find some time to meet during the literal 2 busiest weeks on the sports schedule? It's been crazy, guys. I'm actually, time is it here? I'm heading to the airport here in about 30, 40, as soon as we're done with this, to head back to Winnipeg. The Avs are leading that series 3-1. That game will be tomorrow. Game 5 will be tomorrow in Winnipeg. We got the Denver Nuggets going tonight here at Ball Arena. LA Lakers coming to town. LA Lakers kept the series going a couple nights ago. The Nuggets have another chance to close it out here tonight. Part of the reason why I missed an episode last week is we've got Nuggets coverage that we launched here at Guerilla Sports. Obviously, Avs playoffs are going, so it's been crazy, but it's all been great, and there's even more fun, great stuff coming. Really looking forward to all of it. Guys, I'm afraid I'm scared that I'm getting sick. Like right now, as I'm recording this, I haven't even said anything to them. I feel like the tiniest bit sick, like where you feel it in your nose and like the back of your throat a little bit. So we'll see. This has been a crazy season. A lot of travel, a lot of back and forth, and man, guys, I don't want to harp on it too much. It's really hard to get to Winnipeg. It's too hard to get to Winnipeg, given that there's a professional team there. It's the 7th largest city in Canada, which I also found a little bit surprising. The main strip of downtown, like where the arena is, there's a few bars, a couple restaurants, some good food. We've eaten well when we've been in Winnipeg. I'm looking forward to getting back up there and getting some more good food. Outside of that main stretch, though, there's just not a lot. It's very Midwest. I was talking to Kyle Frederickson from the Denver Gazette, and he was saying this is very much a Midwest city, just in Canada, and it's much further north. The thing that I was wondering was, and I was asking people, and there's no non-offensive way to ask this, but like, what do people do here? Like for work, I was curious, what is it that the people of Winnipeg, like what's the primary, is it military? Is it agriculture? We go to Edmonton. Obviously the Edmonton Oilers are called the Oilers, but like it's oil fields. It's nothing but oil fields, oil and gas industry. Like that's what runs the city. So they're okay. I get why people live up here. I can't figure it out in Winnipeg. So if anybody knows, please let me know. What is it? Is it old military? Is that, what originally, and again, I'm not like trying to dunk on like, why would you live here? But I'm trying to figure out what it is that's up there. That's like the main, this is what people do here. Because I feel like for Midwest cities like that, like you've usually got something, like that. NFL draft was this past week. We talked a little bit about it on the last episode, about just the spectacle of it all. 6 quarterbacks taken in the first 12 picks, a new NFL record. And look, we're here in Denver. The Nuggets get Bo Nix from the Oregon Ducks at 12 overall. 6th quarterback taken in the draft. And it's interesting. I was texting a good friend of mine, Nate Jackson, former Denver Bronco. I said, hey, what do you think? And he said, I think it's a great pick. It's exactly what they needed. And I said, don't you think maybe that was a little high? Would that feel a little bit like a reach maybe? And he said, no. He was saying that he thinks that Bo Nix is going to be the best quarterback taken, when it's all said and done. But the point he was kind of making that we kind of ended up talking about was that was maybe a great example, because the reason I said doesn't that feel like a bit of a reach, there had been a lot of mocks, a lot of different people talking in the days leading up. The Broncos maybe would have had the option to trade back, potentially even as far as the second round, and still be able to get Bo Nix. And the point that, Nate was making to me when I was talking and we kind of were going back and forth was, with the way that draft shook out, they had to take him at 12. People thought that there were going to be multiple QB options potentially still available by the time it got to the Broncos. They could take a different, they can maybe trade back, get another pick, fill in their roster a little bit, and then take Bo Nix later. But he said, look, there was a run on quarterbacks. Suddenly you looked up, and whether Bo Nix was the first guy on your board, the last guy on your board, he was, kind of the only guy left. So it put him in a position where they kind of had to take Bo Nix right there. But look, here's the one thing that I did say for any Denver Bronco fans out there. I said it feels like for the first time, the Denver Broncos are building with a purpose. I've talked about it before. John Elway gets a lot of credit for that Super Bowl 50 team. That was Peyton Manning's team. Peyton Manning was the Jackie Moon of that team. He was the GM. He was the coach. He was the quarterback. This feels like the Broncos are building the right way. You got the Bears taking Caleb Williams first overall. Unbelievable talent on the field. There's been all kinds of weird noise around him off the field. That's exactly what the Chicago Bears need, right? A noisy player. But no, it was interesting to see. You got the Falcons going way off the board, taking a quarterback, even though they got Cousins there, who they just brought in this season. No shortage of drama ever in the NFL. And then you had, going into the third day, over 500,000 people had attended the NFL draft. Now, they do it outside in kind of like an open air setting. So I think it's a little bit cheating because, it's not like you had it at a venue that seats that many people and that many people showed up. It's like, yeah, that many people congregated. But either way, ties right back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago. It's just a crazy spectacle every time the NFL does anything. And it's just funny because you've got NBA and NHL playoffs going on right now. In my opinion, the NHL playoffs are the best pro sports playoffs out there, followed by the NBA. And the NFL draft is still just king. And it's never not funny to me. Not funny, but it's just so interesting. It's so interesting to me the way that America in particular just eats up the NFL. Look, guys, honestly, I don't really have a ton. I want to wait till this first round of playoffs is fully over for both NBA and NHL to kind of dive into what's going on. There's been some fascinating stuff going on both sides. The Nuggets stringing together 11 consecutive wins over the LA Lakers before finally losing one. The Minnesota Timberwolves sweep through the first round on the NBA side. Then you've got the Carolina Hurricanes, the New York Rangers sweeping the Washington Capitals yesterday after only one sweep last year in the NHL. You've got a couple more teams. You got several teams that are up 3-1. And really, I think this year has been an outstanding testament to the Eastern Conference is just not as good top to bottom as the West. I think you got some good teams at the top of the East, not at the bottom. So there's a lot going on. So I'm actually hoping here in the next couple days that things will start getting wrapped up. And then I do want to mention, I want to give a big shout out to my great friends over at PHNX Coyotes. They're doing their final show right now, literally as I'm recording this right now. And that's kind of it for that beat. The Arizona Coyotes are no more. And these are the people that I've talked about in the past, being the ones that I feel the worst for. And being the ones that are the most heavily impacted by all of this. I want to unpack the Arizona Coyotes situation more. I want to have someone else here that I can kind of bounce stuff off of so that it's not just my thoughts and opinions and all that. So we'll do that maybe as we get into the summer and some of the Utah stuff starts becoming a little bit more clear and things like that. So let's get to our guest today. I got a really fun guest, especially this time of year. I think you guys are going to like it. And I finally got to ask a question. I've been wanting to ask this person in particular for about 15 years. You know him from the Colorado Avalanche intermission report. And you know him from some pretty funny slip-ups on air. Enjoy. My next guest is extremely recognizable to Avs fans of all ages, as he's been doing this since
Inception.
Yeah, I was gonna say I couldn't even think of a funny enough adjective to describe that. Kyle Keefe, the host of Avalanche pregame, postgame, intermission. You're down by the glass. You're a little bit of everywhere for the Avs.
Yeah. I don't even know what you call me anymore.
So I'm not even gonna lie. That part of the sentence got from like here to here, and I was like, I don't know what to even call you.
A little bit of Mike Keene. I would say maybe a Swiss Army knife for altitude.
For ssure.
It's been a while, and I guess I should say I want to say two things. First of all, I'm growing this.
You look fantastic.
You don't have to because you always have a beard. Yours is a little. Yours is a little darker.
It's because I look so bad without one. That's what it is.
How old are you, Jesse?
31.
31.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is what you'll look like in 20 years.
I know.
And I also want to say to everybody that's watching, thank God for Jesse, because there are times on the road, and a lot of people do go there, and we've had this conversation that I was literally, if the Avs get pumped like 5-1 or whatever, I would look over at Jesse and I'll be like, dude, where do you want to go, and how do we do this? Because people don't know
Safety and numbers,
the locker
dude.
room sucks when you lose, and you're like, okay, so probably 70% of them are going to be gone by the time we get in there.
Right.
Kale's always there,
Yep.
right? He's a go-to, but you hate to bombard the same
Every
guy.
time. Yep.
But I say to Jesse, where do you want to go? Because he asks the tough questions, and I'm always like the marshmallow man that's like, what happened? And Jesse's like, why? Where did it, so.
Well, but it is helpful because it's like, friendly face, and now I ask the question that you don't want anybody to ask.
Right.
But no, it's so true, man. It's not just loss, because there's losses where it's like, oh, that was a great game.
But, yeah.
There are some losses that you and I have been there for on the road this season in particular. It's like,
well, and I said to you, is it
–
because everyone's giving me about being on the road, right? And everyone's like,
I didn't want to bring this
up.
up.
It's you, Keefe. It's you. And I'm like, no, hang on a second. What about every loss that's at home? Is that me too? So I'm blamed for every loss. But the one road trip to Florida, Wash, 1-4-1, that was bad.
That was bad.
That was rough.
And there's some bad losses on there too.
Yes, there was. And then the last one that we were on, which was – where were we?
It was Edmonton, and it was the
It was Edmonton, Minnesota, and Columbus.
Yep. What was it that was so bad about that Edmonton game? Because
well, we were up.
Yeah,
and then we got beat 6-2.
That's right. That's what it was. It was just a
bloodbath,
pummeling. Mikko got hurt.
Yep.
We found out later Miles Wood got hurt. You and I were standing there.
He left like 4 minutes up. I'm like, did you just see Miles lay down on ice? Okay. I'm like, you can't get sent to the principal's office with 3 minutes to go. Right, something was obviously wrong. But that was God, we had to go through. You stayed the night. We had to go through customs that night.
Yeah.
That was a trip where we got into Minnie. After Columbus, we got into Minnie at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then got into Edmonton at 4 in the morning. Just brutal.
Well, and then I'm sure everyone's in such a great mood to go do customs right after all that and sit on a plane. And
the customs machine wasn't working. So literally we're in this. It's the real airport. It's not. Yeah. Sorry if I'm totally derailing this, but it's the real airport. It's not like the signature airport.
Right.
In line, and the dude running it it's like his first day, and he's like, I don't know what button to push, and you're like, oh my God, kill me.
2 in the morning.
You let all the. Oh no, it was later than that because I want to say we started there. It doesn't matter, but
was
it was
that a late game?
Yeah.
Was that a late start to begin with?
Yes.
Yep.
And then you got on the plane and they said, "Hey, just FYI, it is going to be bumpy the whole way." And and I'm a freak when it comes to flying. I'm always like, I'm just everyone else is just like, everybody's got their headsets on, and I'm literally like holding on, looking over at Moj, and he's got slobber running down, and Riker's like out cold, Connor's out cold.
See, I can't sleep on planes.
I can't either.
I'm not afraid. Not that you're, but flying doesn't bother me, but I can't get comfortable.
I can't either.
And I see people that are like, they sit down on the plane, we haven't even taken off, and they're already out, and I'm like, how are you doing that?
Can I have some of that Lunesta or whatever the hell, Ambien? But I'm a freak on that too, because some people like freak out. I freak out on Ambien.
Well, if you don't fall asleep fast enough,
you're dead.
You're done.
Yeah, you're up. I mean, my wife found me in the backyard one night. She's like, and this is a true story. Wasn't drinking. Was not drinking.
Just trying to get some sleep.
There's two. I'm gonna make these quick. My first one, she found me in the backyard, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I don't remember this. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, come to bed. The second time, I have high blood pressure medication, so I always take it in the morning. We were up in Breckenridge, and she's like, all right, we're going. Put Quincy in the car. put your pills out, put them in my mouth.
Oh no!
We got to a bagel shop, and I was like, she saw me in the corner like doing this. I'm like, I think I'm having a stroke. She's like, what's wrong? Did you take your meds? I go, yes, I took them. She's like, all right, well, just go in the car. I'll bring you a bagel, peanut butter. And I'm like, I'm literally like this. She's like, oh shit, did you take the Ambien? For the whole 12-hour day, ruined. I was ruined. They like stopped at the ice cream shop on the way down the mountain and and I never woke up the whole day.
Oh my goodness!
That you could consider that she drugged me.
Totally.
I could turn her in. To
Totally.
somebody. Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
So know what you're taking.
Know what they look like.
So I needless to say, on the plane, I don't take Ambien.
Yeah.
I'd be up in the cockpit like, what's up?
That all jokes said, that had to be a little bit of a scary moment.
Yeah. Well, you're in the moment, you have no idea.
Right.
But
right.
afterwards, I was like, this is. I don't know. I don't take Ambien anymore. Let's just say that. Yeah.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it wasn't super amazing when you were in it, but hearing it now, that's an amazing story.
Yeah, it's like you're in the spirit world, man.
Dude.
We can't see you. You see the size of that chicken? You know, even though you're 31.
Pretty good.
Do you know the movie though? Johnny knows. Johnny Allison, do you know? Is he in there?
He's in there. I don't know if he's listening.
Now I can't remember. Young Guns.
Okay, I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, peyote.
Yeah. Well, damn, that was the best start to the
sorry
show we've had so far. That's fantastic. Well, I always start with the same first question, but that was fun. Toilet paper, do you hang it over or under?
Whew, you know what? We do neither.
Okay, are you sideways?
It sits.
All right. Hey.
And full disclosure, we are a
acceptable
family of open doors. Now I know it's going to freak people out, but we just are.
It's your family,
right? There's there's conversations going on.
Yeah.
Like Survivor's on.
Yeah.
It's like, who got voted off?
I mean, there's certain things when you get to a certain point in
you're
any
like,
kind of a relationship.
whatever.
It's like, what are we doing? It's like you're like going into you're at the press box at Ball Arena at the door. Like, hey, was that a goal?
Right.
What happened? Like,
right.
You're at home.
That's a whole nother story because our desk is at 136.
Yeah. When did that start, by the way? I'm gonna completely derail everything. When
I don't know. Probably 5 or 6 or 7 years ago.
I was like, because it's not like last year, but it's not also like
it's not
hasn't
too
been
long.
That way forever.
No.
Yeah.
But the only bathroom that's there is
Yeah.
super public, and it's right by the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's full like the toilets are scary. Like,
oh, dude, I'm sure.
It's 15 minutes of cleaning the toilet before you even lay down the foundation right? So you got to
start. Yeah.
You can't be on TV and go,
Yeah. Wow, I had never really thought about that. Because up in the press box, at least, like it's a small bathroom up there, but at least it's a private bathroom.
Right.
It's not
and
open
you
to
know
the public.
everybody that's in there.
Right.
You don't, Joe Schmo that's got diarrhea from last night is
9 beers deep.
Right. And sometimes when you're going to the bathroom, just normal pee, they're like, Kiefer. And I'm like, well, I don't, is there a
You're like, no, I'm not going to fist bump you
elbow?
right now, bro.
Right. And then you get a little stage fright. Like, I shouldn't be here right now.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh God, is the period over? So anyway.
Yeah, then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not even going yet.
Right. Right. Yeah. So far, diarrhea and Ambien. We're off to a good start.
But what else are podcasts for? You can't talk about this on the
No.
show.
No.
You need a platform somewhere to do it.
Right.
So I just asked you when they moved to desk. Kyle, I don't think I've followed the Avs since I was little. My family moved to Denver in 1994. The Avs showed up the next year.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing what you're again? And your job has changed, but when did you start at the desk?
So how it all started, and I'll make this quick so not to bore everybody. Don't
what
push
we're here
pause.
For. They're all here for you. They're slowing this down right now. Great extra.
So I graduated from the University of Wyoming. I came down to Denver. I got my degree in sports broadcasting, which I like to say is getting a degree in painting. Maybe you're good at it, but nobody really cares. Right? Yep. And you hand them a piece of paper with no experience. And I have a horrible voice anyway. Like, it sounds like I'm just plugged up. Riker and I both. I mean, it's like,
Dude,
it's horrible.
I don't know how people listen to
So there's no way. So this is not going to happen. I graduate. I come up here. I'm like, I don't have a job. I had a $500 Discover card from my parents.
Yep.
Till you get a job, this is all you got. And then my buddy's like, you can live free in my living room.
Nice.
You can put your tent up. He had 5 roommates, but it's got to be down by 6 a.m., and so nobody knows really that you're living there. They all know you're there, but they don't want a tent. I was like, no problem. I had a white 10-speed bike. Then I would ride to McNichols Arena every day with my $500 Dollars.
Yep.
And I'd bring a pizza, slap my resume underneath, and I would give it to Paul Andrews, or I'd give it to Lou Personette or Pierre Lacroix, or who I just would go through and just every day. So pizza,
That's brilliant, man.
Well, it ended up being smart. But I was running out of money, and then until finally one day, Lou Personette, who's in charge of broadcasting, called me on a real phone,
Yep.
no cell phones, and said, "Hey, man, I either have to hire you or have you arrested because this is weird." So he hired me as an unpaid intern. I was working over at Macaroni Grill, folding, silverware. They hired me 4 months. The Avs had just won the cup. Like I started
01 or 96 cup?
96.
Okay.
So I started in February. They won the cup in June. Then I got hired in August. And I went through the steps, right? Production assistant, da-da-da-da. And before you knew it, my first video I ever cut was Adam Foote. And I cut it to,
Nice.
I'm gonna couldn't lose.
Yeah.
Couldn't lose. I mean, it's so stupid.
Hey.
But Diamond Vision. They had Diamond Vision up there, and it was like light brights, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was old and crappy.
For sure, man.
But I was doing these videos, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start putting myself on there before I'd be like, hey, this is Kyle Keefe. I'm a nerd. Da-da-da-da-da. Here's Adam Foote's video.
Sick.
Well, it just started happening, and then people are like, oh, he's the jumbotron guy. So I never got hired to do that. I just started doing it.
Yeah.
And then it just sort of spun into stuff. Then I started hosting other shows, and I was doing stuff. I did game operations over at Ball or Pepsi Center at that time.
Yep.
I was putting myself behind the bench, like green screening myself as a coach. I did the penalty box skits, yada, yada. Stan started the network. And so 28 years if you go back to 96.
The pizza and the resume thing, like I know people might listen to that and be like, oh, it's a really old school thing. Because, but like I genuinely, like I would do that today. I think that's brilliant.
Well, why don't you?
I don't need to right now.
I know.
Thankfully, if I...
You guys should see this place, too. I mean, this is sick. Jesse's, like, rolling in the dough or something.
I appreciate it. We like it here. We're figuring it out. But,
nice. Feel
free to slide some pizzas under this door.
Okay.
I don't even need a resume. Just feel free to slide the pizza.
Just come by. Yeah, it was easy to get here, too. But not. My God, they're doing construction over at Santa Fe and Alameda.
I was say Santa Fe. Well, so here's the crazy part about it. Some mornings they are, some mornings they're not.
Yeah, they were today.
And it is totally
best way to get here is to hang glide.
Yeah.
Where I'm coming.
Well, my hang glider's out of commission too.
Is.
That's the tough part. That's why I hit the traffic today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so you answered a couple of my next questions by just telling that story. But so I'm kind of piecing together the background here. You guys have a very different show.
Yeah.
Than like I watch other shows around the league. They're all good in their own ways, right?
Yeah.
Like there's strong talent in all those markets. Your guys is different. It's a lot more engaging, entertainment driven. It's not just here's what it is. When did that start? Was that? It sounds like that was maybe like kind of at your lead.
Yeah, it was organic. I'm going to work backwards on this one because I just saw an Instagram this morning about Frank Caliendo.
Yes. Yep.
He does all the great impressions, and he was doing one of Barkley, and he was like, Barkley, he shows up. He doesn't know half the teams. And he's doing it in the Charles, but I can't do it. But he's like, he doesn't know half the teams. He doesn't know half their numbers, their names. He's mispronouncing them, and people love it.
Love it.
And as I'm watching this, I'm like thinking, I sent it to Johnny Lyles and Riker, and I'm like, people almost care about the entertainment more than they do the information. Because really, if you think about it, everybody knows what you and I know. We may have a little more inside scoop and talk to this player, but you can't just go out there and regurgitate stats.
Right.
Everyone's like, yeah, boring. God dang. I mean, you can't, right?
Right.
So taking it all the way back to early on, 2004 or 5 or 6 or whatever, Curtis Lecision was there. At one point, we had Rick Barry in there. We had Brian Engblom.
Yeah.
And then Riker started later, and we sort of built this chemistry because I cleaned his teeth when I was doing the player stuff. It's weird. Anyway, we had this kind of cool relationship.
Yeah.
But he was kind of funny, and I was kind of into that, and it's organically just sort of turned into just let's be comfortable.
Yeah, on the show.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of just being welcome.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of happened, and then everybody that's been through those doors, footy wasn't as playful.
Right.
He's more like, let's get to the brass bones head. That's why he's a coach.
Well, I was going to say, it's very, that aligns with what you remember of Adam Foote as a player.
Yeah.
He's a coach now. That makes sense.
But if we're not having fun to some extent, now you're not giggling and cracking jokes after a loss, at least not for the first couple of segments.
Right.
Because you want people to stick around. You want people to, anybody could just turn on the game and go, okay, here's the game.
Yeah.
Or when the game's over, what we're trying to do is, hang around or at least come early. Maybe we've got a funny story, or we can reflect on something, or we've got an interesting perspective, or maybe Riker will say shart, or I'll call Peter McNab penis, or, there's crazy things that have happened, right? So it's like things happen if you just forget the cameras are there.
Yeah.
Like, just be yourself
Yep.
and then apologize later but they've sort of taken the seatbelt off of us and said, you guys be you.
Yeah.
And you can't force it. You can't force funny.
Totally.
Right?
No,
and if you do, then people are like, oh, this guy sucks.
People can tell. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of happened that way. And I think it's good. I always feel really, really comfortable with the crew that we've got, and we've sort of been given a green light by a lot of our producers to, if you're taking a conversation, like if it's like, okay, chat McKinnon, chat Rantanen, chat McCarr, and then we'll get to Georgiev. And we never get off McKinnon because we're on a lemonade stand where Riker's wearing, a bikini, and we'll go with it. And we just skip Rantanen and everything else. So that's kind of how it all happened.
Came together. Yeah, being able to pivot. Well, and it's funny because I think, like, personality-wise, you've got a host, you got a former player.
Yeah.
Katie rotates in for you, on paper, it's not put together much different than what you see for a lot of the other broadcasts.
Yeah.
You got a host, you got a former player, they throw to a segment down by the glass. But like you said, you guys have just taken it in a much more fun direction.
And do you like that?
I do. Like, I think I like stuff that's different.
Right.
I think
and some people don't, Jess. I mean, some people are like, I can't handle these guys.
Well, and like I'm sure there are nights where, like you said, it's like it's a bad game.
Right.
You guys are having to take it
much.
off the rails, and it's
Right.
just like, it's not, again, just proverbially, like,
Right.
that's not really what I'm in the mood for. But at that point, like, are you in the mood to hear your team get railed against for 30 minutes by the analyst? Sure.
Right.
Maybe everything they're saying is absolutely correct, and they're spot on and all that stuff. But to me, what I think is, I don't want to say fun because that's the word I just used, but what I like about what you guys are doing is that, like, we're taking something that people know and recognize, and we're just trying to do something a little bit different.
Yes. Hence this. Right?
Exactly.
Something different, something natural, something organic. Right. So I was watching the broadcast last night. I don't know when this is going to run, so forgive me. But it was, it was the Avs and the Oilers, but I don't want to say who was doing it. We weren't doing it. But it was 5-1.
Yeah.
The game means nothing. Yeah. It's over.
Yeah.
And these guys are talking they were talking to Dave Jackson about how he got, how you get scheduled for a Stanley Cup game. Were you watching? Yeah. And so they're basically just killing time for this to end.
100%.
Right? So a lot of times in broadcasts where, let's say it's, 4-2 Avs, and it was just sort of, it was okay.
Yeah.
Right? But if something happened inside that game, you want to really get into that, right? If somebody said, did you see the Avs beat Winnipeg 4-2 the other night? Yeah. Was that the game where the guy threw the underwear on
Yes.
That's what they remember.
Yeah.
So we try and grab those moments, right? Because you have to be relatable.
100%.
And I think if you talk and act like a fan, I'm a fan first and foremost, right?
Yeah.
Second, a broadcaster. I get pissed when this team loses. Like,
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I'm hurt. I can't believe that they lost this game. Like, they're going to go 82-0. And then I'm over the top when they win, right? So I want there to be a balance of professionalism and fandom.
Yeah.
But I always lean a little bit more on the fan side.
Sure. Well, and I think that's your job as someone who, like, you're not affiliated. You're not like on the roster, but like, you are affiliated with the team. You're there every game. Like, I think that's part of your job, and that's the part that I do find funny. Like, I see Connor get it all the time from people like, "Oh, you guys are such homers." It's like, yes, he's the Colorado Avalanche play-by-play.
Right.
Yes,
right.
I would imagine that he's going to be a little bit biased.
And those are the ones that we're talking to, right? I'm not trying to be the best friend with the guy from Iowa.
Right.
That's it's got all the jerseys and everything and wants to know about the hockey. The people that really love and watch our shows, pre or post or whatever we do, know what to expect.
Right.
And hopefully have an expectation that they're going to be somewhat entertained.
Well,
and I'm not saying ha, ha, ha. I mean, just like, I feel like people that come up and say hi to us, or they know about my daughter Quincy, they know about my dog Steve, they know my wife, they know Riker, and they know Lyles in the wine cave, and they know the story because we're also human. We're just delivering what we just saw and you just saw.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has their opinion about a game. Why not just throw a little twist on it?
Well, and then the other thing too, man, and you know this, we just, game 82, like you said, we're recording this. Game 82 was last night. It's a long season, man.
Yeah.
you got to have some fun. You got to
Yep.
you got to do something that keeps not only the people that are watching entertained, but yourself entertained.
Yep.
It's a long season.
And for the players too, like if you're constantly going into the locker room, and I will give big breaks. I purposely do this where I will, like after that road trip, I didn't go in that locker room for 2 weeks because I'm the last face they want to see, right? They're like, oh, it's this guy again.
I know. Yeah.
So you can't do that because you cover the team on a daily basis, right? Our jobs are different.
Yep.
So I try and do that just so they're not like, I want to kill this guy. I can't believe he's here again. And you got to mix it up with them a little bit. I see, I always see teams will do it where they do the signs where the guys are coming off the ice. I know it's dumb and silly and all that, but it's actually pretty funny.
Pretty good, and you get a lot of good responses.
Right, and you don't have to say a word.
Right.
Just answer this sign.
Yep.
You pick your nose.
Don't even stop walking.
No.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes you have to do that with professional athletes because let's be honest, 31. How many players are older than you?
On this app.
Jack, Cogs.
That might be it this year, man. Zach.
Zach. Okay, so maybe 3 or 4 guys.
3 or 4, yeah.
So you're talking to guys that are younger than you. And for me, I mean, they've probably seen me like walking in there on a cane, like, does anybody have any Advil? So, I try and balance that relationship because usually when I do ask them to do stuff, it's a little bit off the wall.
Funny, yeah.
So, it's the whole broadcast relationship with the team, working for the network is a balancing act of
totally.
Don't be annoying,
but
don't be dull. And that's sort of my motto is, be right, be good, but don't be ordinary. Figure out a way to do both, all three.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. We talk about it all the time here. Like we use that word. We don't want to be ordinary.
Right.
We want to do stuff different. And what I also like about what you guys do, it's a philosophy that I really try to, put forward here is like, let's try it.
Yeah.
Let's try it. And if it doesn't work,
guess
what? We won't do it again.
100%.
And if it does work, great. Let's run with it.
Yeah.
I feel like I meet, not just in media, but just like you meet people who are afraid to try stuff because it might not work. And it's like, that's okay.
It's a different gamble when you're spending big dollars on it.
For sure,
right?
100%.
I will tell you one story. When I was game operations, and I think John Allison was there when we did this, but I was game ops, okay? So all the videos and lights and all that. Yeah. I ran all of that for both the Avs and the Nuggets for years. And I was like, we got to do something different because, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they have a lightning bolt.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
It is sick. And it's real lightning.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And it's scary. So I made it snow inside Pepsi Center for, I think it was 15 home games. And it would, when the Avs would come out, it would snow inside the arena.
When was this?
Yeah. Oh, I wish John was in there. But I want to say it was 2002 and 3 and 4, maybe.
That's awesome.
And I had to buy all these, what they were bubbles. Okay, it wasn't snow. But they were, it would snow and then it would just, dissolve on your skin or your clothes or whatever. And it was great. I mean, it was freaky. I mean, the players loved it. I loved it. The fans loved it. The NHL wasn't crazy about it because the bubbles would hit the ice.
Oh.
And so you're stopping, just a giant bubble.
That's all right.
So it took a while. I think we had the All-Star game there in 04.
It was 01.
Oh, was it 01?
It was
okay.
01, yeah.
So it was then, right? And so, they had their NHL's. He's like, what's going on with this ice? And they were like, this is a no-no.
Dang.
Yeah, so we had all these snow machines. And
that's sick.
They're like, who did this?
This is going to sound silly. Connor McGahey, this reference for you, they do that at Disney.
Do
Disneyland, Disney World around the holidays, and it's
snows?
Bubbles. Yeah,
okay.
It snows in Orlando, but it's little tiny bubbles.
No, there probably are machines. We probably sold them to Disney on Ice.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding, man.
Dang, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. I would love that because I think the Lightning is cool. I wish they'd bring back the mountain.
I know
that they skated out of.
They should.
That was a good one.
God, that was McNichols though. Did they have it here? Maybe they did have it here.
I think they had it for the first couple of years, but it did not last very long.
Yeah.
When you first started doing, and I know you kind of talked about this a little bit already. When you first started doing the show, was it more traditional, like what we were talking about with the other, like you throw to because Riker used to do a lot of the telestrator and all that stuff. What was it a little bit more? I don't want to say buttoned up because that would imply that it's not buttoned up now.
Yeah,
but you know what I'm asking.
Well, going all the way back, first of all, I wanted to crap my pants every time I went on TV. Like that light would turn on.
Really?
and then you start talking like this, and you're not talking about what you're. Oh God.
Yeah.
Right. And so like that's back in the days when I was doing with Lecision and Brian. God, we even had Julie Browman in there at a certain point.
Yep.
Um,
This is before LG too,
yeah,
right?
way
before
before.
LG.
So it's just everyone's just sort of figuring it out. Nobody knew what altitude was, and it was just I sucked. I mean, let's just be honest. It took me 2 or 3 years just to.
But you and I
be
talked
somewhat
about that. Even people who are good, it takes you a minute.
It does.
Yeah.
It just does. And I don't use a teleprompter. I'm just like I do a whole bunch
Love
of
that.
game prep, and then I always have everything here, but I never need it.
Yeah.
And if you're over prepared, you never need to work on camera.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if you do due diligence, you seem more prepared and you can be more natural.
Yeah.
That being said, back to your question, I miss that so much with Riker because the telestrator. Look, when Pete died, everything had to change.
Totally.
It was devastating.
Yeah.
Right, for all of us, and we were on our way back from Finland, and we had all told Pete, "Hang on till we get back," because everybody wanted to say goodbye. I'm even getting emotional even talking about it. And
did you guys know when we were in Finland?
We had just come back into cell phone range, so we were probably under 20,000 feet.
Yeah,
coming somewhere over Wyoming or Colorado, and somebody got a text, and it was from Diane, and I want to say it was to Matt Sokolowski. I can't remember who it was to first, and they had said that Pete had passed.
Well, no, I guess I'm sorry. When we were in Finland, did you guys know that was coming? Because I mean,
yeah,
I was in my hotel room the night before flying back, and I mean, God, I was blindsided because the last public update that anybody had gotten was
he's getting better.
He was getting better. He was in remission. He's back at it. He's gonna be back around the rink. I mean, I sat on my bed. My wife was with me, with my jaw hanging open for 5 minutes.
Yeah. And I don't want to get into too many of the personal details, but I think it came back.
Yeah.
And, chemo can take, as I'm sure many of your listeners or viewers know, it can just take it. You're just like, I
can't do it.
Can I do that again?
Yeah.
So it had come back, and Pete wanted to work as long as his body would let him work. And, you saw him on some of those broadcasts. He was sick. Very sick. But he always a smile on his face, and always the the big shoulder. And anyway, so we had found out that he had passed. It was devastating. But then we're sort of left with, well, what do we do?
The reality of
right?
What do you do?
Is Moj going to be the same? Who do you get to fill that role? And if Riker is that role, how good is he? Because he's done it a handful of times, but Pete is unreplaceable.
Right, exactly.
And then what do you do about the studio? Riker and I had really good chemistry. You need to start throwing guys in there and see what sticks. And what about Johnny Lyles? He lives up in Vail. How do we, and the whole COVID thing, it sort of introduced the wine cave, because he couldn't come down. So it was everybody had to just figure it out. And during figuring it out, you had to go through an emotional. Pete was the leader.
Totally.
I mean, he was the guy.
Yep.
He was our guy.
The original guy, too.
Yep.
He was, I believe, the only one who was there from day one
Yeah.
left.
Yep. He was, I was there his first year, but he was there with Fox Sports.
Right.
So he had done it with John Kelly, if you remember back in the day. And Fox Sports was there for 5, 6, 7 years before Altitude ever even started, almost 10. But yeah, he was the original OG, but it was more than that. He played so many years in Boston.
He was such a better player than he ever gave himself credit for on the air. It would crack me up.
You look at the numbers.
It's crazy.
I mean,
it is crazy. I mean,
he almost had 1,000 points.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
big time points in the NHL. I mean, huge player at DU. And if you only went off of what Peter McNab said on the broadcast, you would think he
sucked.
Got a cup of coffee. Played 4 minutes a night here and there, and then was out of the league. It's like, no, dude, you were, like you said, you were almost 1,000-point player in the NHL,
and the best storyteller. And he would, the funny thing about Pete is he would tell a story, and he would just start naming guys. He'd go, you remember Johnny Fredrickson? He was. I had no idea who half these people are. He was third line for the Canadians back in '73. I'm like, Pete, I was born in '73.
Yeah, you're like, yes, I remember that.
I wasn't watching hockey until like Wayne Gretzky, So, but anyway, he would get so intimate into these stories and the details, and you would go, how in God's name do you remember this shit?
Right.
And he would be, I'm at a meatball store in Chicago, 2 streets away from the hotel we were there, and I remember I had 3 beers with this guy, and just the amount of detail that he would have, and you'd think, oh, these are BS, and then he'd see somebody like Eddie Olczyk, and Eddie would regurgitate the exact same story, and you'd look over at Pete like he's not full of
that.
it.
Yeah, that was 100% true.
And just the people around the league, how they would look at Pete, and how he would just, he was that nucleus that we had, and so losing him certainly was devastating. But back to the telestrator, I really wanted to bring that back.
Yeah.
It takes so much time to learn how to do the right way. I mean, you saw how Riker would do with the lightning. He would do this. But, it's times change, and hopefully, we'll figure it out, and whether it's Johnny or Mitchie or Yanni or whoever can bring that back.
And truthfully, it kind of goes back a little bit to what we were talking about of trying stuff different is, it's the horrible reality that, stuff, life moves on, the world continues to turn. And like you said, as everyone kind of settled through the emotion, you're left with the reality of, well, what do we do?
Right.
Like there's this whole thing that we have to do. And so, I think that culture, that mentality that you were talking about of, we're always trying something new, that, you guys will find that next thing like, oh my gosh, can't believe we didn't think of this before. Cause that's a mindset that, you guys have over there.
Well, let me ask you this. Like, what do you think is the coolest thing that you've seen in sports over the last 5 years?
Oh, what do you mean? Like
I would say
on our end of stuff, or like
no, I would say like the Manning cast.
Oh yeah.
Whether you're like Peyton or not, it's nice every now and then to just channel up one.
Yep.
And see Ryan Reynolds on there, or
Samuel
L. Jackson talking with Peyton, and they're just sort of bullshitting about the play that's happening. I really thought that was cool. What I would really like in the NHL, 2 things. I would like new studio chairs because I lose circulation in my legs on those studio chairs.
Are you guys not standing?
Well, we are in the studio.
Oh, okay. Oh,
at Ball Arena.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like putting your leg on a knife. Anyway, I turned that in as a budget item. It'll get canceled.
Yeah.
And the other thing is can we get a real blue line camera in the National Hockey League? I mean, are you kidding me?
Oh my goodness.
We always have to look at it from 8 feet over this way or 8 feet over this way. Can everybody just not have a POV blue line camera that's in the boards and one that's above the boards? How hard is that? Why can't we do this?
Here's something that I'll tell you that's even crazier. I've been told that exists.
Where?
That it
What's Johnny doing? Are you?
Oh wait, were you? Oh, I thought you were stopping it. You scared me for a second.
Don't ever. You come sit on my lap and I'll. No, don't. That was weird. Don't come sit on my lap.
Oh no,
buddy. We're going for a record. I thought you guys were done.
Yeah, I know.
See how natural? Yeah. The blue line camera.
Apparently, they have them,
Where?
And we don't get to see them. That's what I've been told.
So Toronto's the only one that gets
Toronto's
to see
and coaches.
Well, that would be helpful for the fans, right? I go back to the Landeskog thing. Was a skate on the ice? Was he on the bench? Do you remember that against San Jose?
Oh my gosh, I remember that?
Yeah, and then just the other night, like the whole, and I've gotten into big time fights with people about the Lindgren, Nathan McKinnon assist thing, and did he have possession? And it's just a bunch of garbage. Give Nate the assist.
That one he should have gotten it.
Yes,
for sure.
Now they got beat 7-0. Streak ended anyway.
And that didn't that almost kind of make it a little bit better?
Well, yeah. There's a lot of people that were like, "Thank God that didn't happen," because if Nate would have gotten it with the asterisks, oh God, heads would have rolled.
But yeah, so apparently those blue line cameras exist, but we don't.
Well, that'd
we
be
don't get to see them.
That'd be helpful.
You've been very, very, very generous with your time, so I've only got a couple more for you, and I apologize for keeping you this long.
Isn't it great that John, he thought we were just shooting the shit in here, and he's like,
you guys are all done?
You guys are done? You're just talking normal now.
What's your favorite Avs moment? I'm Avs moment, and then Avs moment that you were physically there for.
Yeah, well, I was there for 2 of the Cups. I wasn't in Florida. But I was there on the ice when Joe handed Ray.
You were nice.
I was right in the penalty boxes. That's where we worked, where we called the game. So balling like a baby. The 2022 Cup, I was with Peter Aragon.
Were you
in
there?
the Zamboni tunnel? Oh yeah, God dang. I mean, and I was a disaster. I mean, sobbing, because I was so happy for Gabe.
Yeah.
I was so happy for everybody, but I was so happy for Gabe.
Yeah.
Because he went through just the worst years of 48 points and da-da-da. And I knew how bad they all wanted it.
Yeah.
Bedsy included, front office. I knew, but for whatever reason, I really wanted Gabe. I would say that one of my, and it's not a moment, but I love when, like Game 82 against St. Louis. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Like Landy beat up Shen.
Yeah, yeah.
And we needed it so bad.
The environment in that building
was
including playoff games.
Yeah.
That 2022 run, there were some unbelievable atmospheres.
But maybe the moment.
That Game 82 was maybe the most like electric.
Yeah.
And just the atmosphere in there, from the second you walked in the door, you could feel it. Mm-hmm. It felt like Game 7, but everyone understood the parameters. Mm-hmm. It's Game 7, but you got to win in 60 minutes.
Right.
If this goes beyond 60 minutes and 1 second, the season's over.
Somebody had an empty netter.
It was Gabe.
Was it Gabe that had the empty? And then he got crushed by the whole mob. And there was still time on the clock.
Because they pulled their goalie early.
Yeah. Okay.
And so he hit that empty netter, and it was like, you're up by 2, but there's 2:33 on the clock.
Yeah,
like you're not in the last 15 seconds.
But it was St. Louis. They were devastated at that point. It's like, what did we just go through? Mm-hmm. There's nobody could have beat that team that night. Right?
No.
There was another moment where Craig Anderson, this is long before you, but Craig Anderson, who,
40 whatever save shutout?
63 saves.
Is that what it was?
63 saves. And I was out on the ice interviewing him, and I was spazzed out, blacked out, all that stuff. And I love Tommy Boy.
Yeah.
And I had said to him, Craig, I swear I've seen a lot of stuff in my life.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
Everybody went, but that was awesome.
They used to play that.
They did?
After goals.
Oh, okay.
That was part of the, well, again, not every time.
Yeah.
It was, they always did a different little sound effect, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
And I when you just said that, I remember you asking him that question, or not asking him the question, but saying that, and everyone was chanting his name.
And I think Ryan O'Reilly scored an impossible shot from the red line in the corner that went off somebody's skate and hit in. Anyway, there's so many moments, but I will agree with you that Game 82 was just
totally
jacked.
Again, from the second you walked in, you could feel it, and I believe it was Sam Girard who scored right at the end of the first to break the 0-0 tie, and I mean I thought the roof was going to come off.
So you know more details about it than I do.
Well, I just, because I remember so vividly what the atmosphere was like that night, and how, to this day, again, I love round 1, home game 1. Mm-hmm. The Western Conference Final from a couple years ago.
With Edmonton?
With Edmonton, there was one of those games that was
7. Didn't they win 6 or 7 or 8?
Yep. Yeah, the first game, and there have been some crazy moments in Ball Arena, but that Game 82 was something else.
It stands out for sure.
Yeah. All right, the last one I've got for you. I didn't know if I was going to ask you about it, but you mentioned it earlier.
Oh yeah, which one? Penis McNab?
Penis McNab.
Oh, my God.
And that's the way it goes. 4-3 your final at the Saddle Dome. Here's what's coming up. In the next 30 minutes, Peter will join us here in a second to break down the game.
Yeah.
Penis So what? I guess not what happened. It was you slipped up, but I regret to tell you how many times I've watched that and just laughed and laughed and laughed.
And I do too. I do too. We were in Calgary. It was a Tuesday night, or it was a crappy night.
Yeah.
And we got pumped. I think it was 5-2 or 5-3 or whatever. And I was tired. He was tired. We're both terrible broadcasters, right? We still sit at the little desk. And what I was trying to say was Peter will join us. Peter will join us. So, hey, your final tonight was 5-3 in Calgary. We'll hear from the players in the locker room. Then they throw up the graphic. And I, in between sentences, I look, and it says Peter McNab will join us.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to say Peter McNab will join us, and I said penis will join us. And now, after that, I knew I had said it, but my face started to get hot.
Yeah.
And, I've got double IFB in my ear, and I hear, oh, my God, what did you just say?
Oh, my God.
And then I've got Riker doing that.
Because you hold it together.
Yes.
You hold it together for
when they go right into the highlights.
Yep.
And you can hear Jerkface over there, like, and I'm looking at him and I'm trying to do the highlights and blah, 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 blah. And I know he can't get it together. And I'm like, oh my God. So I start kind of laughing and you can hear me. Now, this is a true story. There was some urine running down my leg. I had peed my pants
From laughing so hard?
and this is it. This is the This is the end of the. I'm going to get fired.
Yeah.
Right. You can't say
I just
that
said
word.
that on, yeah.
Yes, thank God for Barstool Sports and the people that just started cussing. But we came back on camera, and you've seen him. I mean, it really had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with him not being able to be a man.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, it's tough way to end it. You know, we keep going through this. You know, and the players will tell you this. The head coach will tell you this. At the end of the night, they didn't get the 2 points. I'm sorry.
Don't be an imbecile.
Because it's one of those things where, I mean, dude, you slip up all the time. You
Yeah.
say the wrong word, you push words together, you correct yourself, and you move on. If you say something funny, sometimes you chuckle or whatever.
Yeah.
But again, we just watched it upstairs again right before you got here. You hold it together.
Thank you.
Go into the highlights, and then he can't keep together, and that causes you naturally.
Right.
Because attention was drawn to it suddenly.
Right. Well, and you remember that you've got an entire control room of people.
Right. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that are going, and literally they're saying, you can hear them as we're speaking, you are so fired. You're so dead. I mean, I don't even know why you guys are even alive at this point.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and what ended up saving us, honestly, is that night, I went home and told Dana, I said, McDonald's or Burger King, which one do you like better? Which one's closer to our house? Because that's where I have to apply. And my phone was buzzing, and I was like, oh, man, I knew I had to go face our boss.
Yeah.
I won't say her name, but she originally was super pissed until I told her that I had gotten calls from Ryan Seacrest's producers had called us, and Howard Stern's producers had reached out. Now, you'd think today, you just throw it on Twitter and it's blah, 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 blah. Well, they didn't have that.
Right.
You know, or it wasn't a big deal when that came out. I think, I don't even know.
It was social media may have
not
been
a big deal.
Super
The
early.
only way you could look at it was YouTube.
Yep.
So anyway, I had told her, I said, you know, I went and saw her. I said, I'm so sorry. I don't know what. Da, 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 da. I said, I did get calls from this and this and this. And then the Avalanche actually thought it was funny.
Really?
Because we were going through a really tough stretch.
It's bad. Yeah.
And finally it sort of took the attention away from, you know, some of the hockey to look at how big idiots these two guys are. And it sort of just went away. And we were like, thank God. And then it blew up. And people always ask me, did you mean to say that? Did you? And I'm like, oh God, if you had any idea how scary it is to say something like that. And then fast forward, 10 years later, he comes up with Sharts.
Right.
You've seen Sharts.
Oh yeah.
Allowing fewer and fewer shots. A little more like
It was shots and I don't remember the other word.
Yeah.
But just as funny and just as stupid. And
and so what I've always wondered, I never thought for a second that you meant to say that.
But I get why people would say, oh, you just but
what my thought always was I said, I'll bet you they were making jokes right before they went on air, and someone probably said that word as a joke. And so it was one of those things that you're getting thrown into it right away. It makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Peter will join us. I talk fast. I can sometimes push words together.
Sure.
And it sounds like that happened to maybe a little bit larger.
Here's the thing is, if you've ever watched a game, and sometimes we have fans that will come in and watch games with me and Riker. It's actually a pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
but
sweet.
I always tell them, and Bill Hanslick is the worst. He's the worst. I thought I was the worst, but he's worse than I am. Just about, you're a fan, right? So when things don't go right, it's full.
Yeah.
Any word goes, right? I am mad. I'm happy.
Yep.
You need earplugs if that sort of thing bothers you. So when people come in, I'm like, okay, just a heads up that this is how it goes. Right.
Yeah.
But then we always have like a 2-3 minute warning. Like, we're going on the air here in 2 or 3 minutes. So you got to be like, and the baby crossed the street, and puppies are around. And you have to get your mind back in that sort of.
Yep.
Can't talk like you're in the locker room again.
Yeah.
So, but that's funny that, when you combine words like that, it's so much easier to do. I spend, a large part of my life on camera.
Yeah.
And so everything is critique. This guy sucks. I hate the way, and so you got to have thick skin. And if the wrong word comes out, it's magnified like that. And now with Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, it's like, look at this idiot. And you're like, whatever, dude.
And that's the part that Connor and I talked about this actually. We're like, to do this job, even like you mentioned, Barstool and people swearing. I swear occasionally on a podcast. Like, the filter's got to be pretty good between here and here.
Oh, yeah.
Like, to do this, any kind of stuff, like, you got to have a pretty good, like, I swear a lot in my regular life.
But button.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because when you're trying to be natural, you're not trying to think of what you're thinking. You're trying to just say what you're thinking. To keep it natural. But it's natural just to go, and you're like, well, I can't do that.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Right.
But all right. Well, hey, I'm glad I finally, 15 years later, get to the bottom of there's a couple words, push it. And
you're not wearing any of your new shoes because every time I see you, you've got a new pair of digs on.
It's been all wet and puddly and all that stuff.
I'm disappointed in you.
I know.
Yeah.
Although I am glad to hear you say that because the last pair of shoes you saw me when you went, do you go outside?
I know. The shoes are always so white. I'm like, dude, what are you like tap dancing to your car? How are you?
Exactly. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I skip.
Yeah.
Keep them off the ground as much as possible. Kyle, this has been a blast, man.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This summer we'll have you back in here. We got some, hopefully a short summer, not much time to kill.
Now we should bring in the crew. We should bring in Lyles and Riker. And are you allowed to drink beer out here?
We can do whatever you'd like.
Yeah, I think it should be like a full session,
R
R-rated.
Let's do it.
Bare bones. Let's talk some.
We've got the space here to do it. Let's have. I don't know if I'm like slowly kind of working my way through having you guys all in here. So let's just get them all in at once.
Connor said, "Go do it. It's awesome." So I was like, I watched that one too. It's funny.
Connor's a funny guy. He's his Twitter profile picture being the guy, the old man from Up,
is him. Yeah, and everything is so professional. Now let me tell you, Jesse. When I started back, I mean, it's just, I do those things.
Connor voice. It's great.
I mean, you really have to dig deep to get to the. And he's a little guy, but he's got the big voice.
Smaller guy than what you would expect. Because like Roach, when you see Alan Roach, you're like, yes.
Yeah, he's Darth Vader.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Connor cracks me up. He's
the face doesn't meet the voice.
No, not at all.
Now Mo's is perfect. Just
and the craziest thing about Connor's, I asked him. I said, does doing the narrator voice, does that hurt? Does that strain your voice? So I was like, no, not at all.
Did he answer like that?
Yeah, and I was like, how?
Yeah.
How that seems.
When he's drinking, he doesn't drink beer. He drinks vodka tonics, and I can get him going. The voice gets a little bit higher. It's not
anything too exciting that happens, and he starts getting some of these.
Yeah, I just got some pubes.
Seriously, I would love that. We'll get that arranged. We'll have you guys all down here this summer, and we'll drink some beers, tell some stories, and just have a blast.
I'll have some time. Hopefully, I won't have any time until after mid-June.
That's what I was saying, dude. I was telling my wife last year. I was ready for the season to be done.
Yeah, it was.
They had so many injuries. They didn't have the horses to go deep. Yeah. It's like let's not prolong this.
Yeah.
This year, I'm fired up, man. Like I'm fired up for this postseason. I'm ready to go. 4 different cities. Like let's do this again. I think that'd be a blast.
I think this will be the toughest matchup.
I agree with you. Yep. I think if they can get through this one, I think you feel pretty good. It's also the worst matchup to travel to.
And it's the worst to travel to, and it's maybe the worst team. It's the hardest team.
Yeah.
They are big and mean, and they know how to counter the speed, and we are all about speed.
They play the exact opposite of the way the Avs play. If the Avs can get them to run around the way the Avs want to run around, not run around, but if they can get them to play with that pace, Winnipeg's in trouble.
Yep.
They haven't done that
and
yet.
I'd say 2 things, and I know we got to go.
You're good.
Georgie obviously has to be outstanding.
Yep.
And if it's not Georgie, Ananen has to be outstanding.
Yep.
Outstanding.
Yep.
Especially in this series, it doesn't even matter if it's Dallas or Vegas.
Yep.
Number 2 is Nichushkin, Trennan, Duhaime, whoever is in the middle. I mean, somebody's got to have their ass right in front of Hellebuck the entire
constantly.
game. If he sees it, it ain't going in.
Correct.
So It's got to be. There's got to be a body in front every time.
Every time. That's where they're going to miss Gabe the most in this series.
Yes.
He would have been huge in this series.
Yep.
Zach Parise, Yakov Trenin, Val Nichushkin, Lehkonen.
Yep.
Those guys all got to be parked
Live
right
there. Yep.
I'm with you.
Yep.
Kyle, looking forward to this series. We'll be talking more here in the next couple of days, but thanks so much for coming down.
Thanks,
man.
Jesse.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks. Okay, that'll do it. Thank you so much to good friend Kyle Keefe for coming on, taking the time out to come down, tell some stories. I was telling everyone he had some of the best stories of the folks that we've had in here yet so far. So it was great having Kyle down, and we're going to try to get them all in here this summer. See if we can't do a big roundtable with all the goofballs over there at Altitude TV. But that's all I got for you guys today. I got to get to the airport, so I'm heading out. Shout out Evan, Corey, Megan Angley, Kyle Fredrickson. They're all in Fargo right now getting some lunch, and they're about to start the drive into Winnipeg. So big shout out to them. It's tough, man. Like I was saying, it's not easy to get to Winnipeg, and everyone that's doing it, it's some real dedication from everyone. We've talked about it on the Guerilla Hockey podcast. I love this beat that we've got going over with the Avs. Everyone in that media room is awesome, and we're having a ton of fun. So I'm anxious to get up there and meet back up with everyone, get some dinner, do all that stuff. But safe travels to them. But thanks so much for tuning in, guys. More episodes coming, more fun guests coming. We make sure you guys are liking and subscribing on the YouTube channel for Guerilla Sports. We got all kinds of great stuff. Avs, Nuggets, more coming along the way. I'm teasing this now for about a week, and I'm thinking people are probably starting to put it together what I'm talking about. So more exciting stuff coming. But hey, guys, this is fun. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you next week.